Time for social studies. We did not do social studies last week, but we are starting it this week and we are moving on to chapter 6. So you're going to open your social studies book to these pages, which is page number 90 and 91. And it'll say the New England Colonies, and you can see a picture of what the New England Colonies used to look like. And then we always read our red banner together, so I'm going to read it to you. You can follow along with me. Our verse for this chapter is Matthew 4:10, which thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. So this chapter talks a lot about the Pilgrims and the Puritans, which we'll get into in a couple minutes, and why they came and set up the colonies the way that they did. So we are going to focus on, like I just said, people coming to New England to live the way God wanted them to live. We've talked about before how when they all lived in England, they all felt that they couldn't worship God the way that they wanted to, and they were being controlled by the king. And so the Pilgrims came to America, and then another group of people came to America that were called the Puritans, and it was all so that they could focus on God the way they felt God wanted them to live. So our next star says some 4 key words, which are education. You're going to learn about how children in the New England colonies, when they first settled, how they did education, and you can compare it to how different it is today and how different it even is right now. This whole me making videos for you is very different than how education normally would be for us. We're going to talk more about the Pilgrims, the Puritans, and religion. There is an activity that it gives you the suggestion as how you could make this, it's called a horn book, which is what students used for their books back in the New England colonies. So if you turn to page 92, you're going to start reading about Plymouth. We know that Plymouth is where the Pilgrims came on the Mayflower and where they landed. The things I want you to really pay attention to when you're reading, and remember, again, like I've said in other videos, I want you to be practicing reading it out loud. Even if it's just to yourself, if mom and dad are working or whatever it is, I want you practicing reading out loud. If you get stuck on a word, sound it out, ask for help, okay? But remember, we always focus on the bolded words. So here our bolded word is pilgrim. So that means that pilgrim is an important word, which you will probably need to use on your workbook pages. So when you get stuck on questions for the workbook, always look back to these bolded words. There's a reason the makers of the book put them in a bolded print. So it's to help us on the workbook pages. So in the first section, pilgrim is bolded. Religion is a bolded word, okay? You'll keep turning the page and we'll talk again briefly about Squanto and how he helped the Pilgrims. We talked about him in one of our other chapters. So this is kind of just refreshing our minds on some things we've talked about before. Then you're going to get to the group called Massachusetts Bay, which is our group of Puritans. And you're going to see differences between the Pilgrims and the Puritans, but you're also going to see a lot of similarities. You're going to keep going, and this is over the next few days. This isn't all at once. Okay, we have an area called Rhode Island, which is a New England colony, and then we'll have Connecticut and New Hampshire, which are also, New England colonies. Okay, there's going to be maps for you to look at, which will also help you with your workbook pages. We've done a lot of maps before, to where we look and see where the places are labeled. Sometimes it's labeled right inside of where it is. Other times the words don't fit, so they have lines drawing to it. We also have maps that have keys to let us know what we're looking at. You're going to learn a lot about life in New England, how life was, what they planted, if they were farmers, if they were more people that had to go into the woods to find things, if they traded with each other. Again, all things we've talked about before with Native Americans and the different tribes there were. Now we're focusing on the colonists in New England, okay? Like I said a few minutes ago, you're going to learn about the schools in New England, and this is a pretty interesting lesson on schools because we can, like I said, compare it to what today is like and how different it is. You're going to learn about some poets, people who wrote special poetry that have, it's still important to this day. And then that pretty much sums up the chapter. So for every few pages you read, there's gonna be a workbook page, just like at school as if we were together. So you're gonna complete the workbook page, and you're gonna use those bolded words to help you answer any of the questions if you get stuck. For the most part, they even give you extra information about those bolded words on your workbook page. Okay, some of our workbook pages, let me find one, are going to need colors, so crayons. This one is one of our color the different pieces of the map, and again, that map was right in our book. You can use crayons or markers or whatever you guys have on hand for that, okay? But I know you guys really like markers. And I think that was, oh, here's one. So towards the end of it is one of these papers that we've done before in class, where the next page are the pieces you cut out and glue. So that was the only one I kind of wanted to touch base on with parents, so that you'll just cut out these pictures and then you'll glue them on the timeline, and then this one will obviously be the only one that I'll need you to turn in, okay? So that's it for social studies. I made a playlist on my YouTube channel that's titled Social Studies, and I'm gonna put some different videos that are on YouTube that we would have watched in class to kind of talk about what we also talked about on that playlist, so you can look at those if you'd like to. I'll try to pick the most interesting ones so we don't have any boring videos to watch. But if you have any questions, let me know. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.